Hello. Hello, there's Joan. Oh. All right, I'm going to put this away. Okay, my last minute adjustments have started. 1 second. If you're wondering where my animal is, she's in the corner on the windowsill where she's been since yesterday. Here's my tissue. And you're going over here. So this is coming out. Okay. Never know what's going to happen until it happens. Actually, that's not true. Why did that even come out of my mouth? That's not true. I very often know what's going to happen. Nonetheless, there are like last minute surface adjustments. Oh. Okay, seemed a little crooked, doesn't it? Nope, he wants to go over here. I've got a book on top of a basket. All right. Carmen's sitting there with her mouth open over there. I have a copious amount of notes, per usual, and a lot to cover. This was yesterday. The pad was open and then I closed it. So now I have to find it. And I'm going to have to go, okay. There are so many updates. Since even yesterday, there are so many updates. New set of people, different adjustments. There's an algebra to everything. There's an impending, hang on a minute. Yes, I was listening to the live stream from yesterday, and I know that I need to make a kind of a correction. I want to make a correction to one of the things I said about the about voting. I guess I'll just start with that. What I had, and then I wrote notes about it. What I had said yesterday, if you didn't catch my live stream, I was talking about the toroidal field, and I was saying how in the, boy, there's a ton of information. Oh my gosh. I was saying how the voting system is dead. That is simultaneously true and not true. I don't mean that nobody should vote. What I meant is that until circumstances, I really didn't explain myself very well yesterday. I think I wound up veering. My energy, the way it is with all of the frequencies, and because I'm carrying the updated template, even that is, I want to rephrase that even. Because everybody's carrying their own, but simultaneously for social, yes, that's it. Everyone is carrying their own individual template. Nonetheless, I'm responsible for the group organization, that template. For 5, I'm carrying the updated template. So I personally, with the particular energy that I'm carrying, I can't contribute my energy into a system that is corrupted. So it has to be purified before I can go anywhere near it, because it's going to bloom and multiply so quickly if I do that, that it would increase the density. So I can't do it. That doesn't, I'm not, it did yesterday just say, basically, pay attention to the percentages of where you're putting your energy, and don't endorse with your own energetic signature anything that you are not that's what I wanted to say, anything that you're not 100% in alignment with. So that's one thing I really needed to talk about. I said I was going to, I should have known better. I mentioned in a comment to Jen Reynolds that I was going to start with my Beetle story, but of course, as soon as I turned on the camera, they're like, nope, you're doing this thing. So, okay, I'll have to do my Beetle story another time, even though it's a pretty cool story. I have a 5 Beetle story too, and at some point I will have to, at some point I want to go on some live stream and just like get a whole bunch of cool stories out of the way, because I have a lot of them. And they're all pertinent. But there are updates. You know what I'm going to do? Hi. Glad to see you all here. Okay, so levels of investment. I'm just going to, if you'll bear with me for a second, I'm going to go through my 3 pads of paper. For some reason, I'm being drawn to start with this thing. I have to find it. Yeah, don't endorse anything that has a turd in the soup. So from five, unless you like turds in the soup, because from the 5 gateway, when you go up, everything has to be 100% in alignment with you, with your own authenticity. So there's not going to be any more settling with something that you're not completely on board with. So what we're trying to adjust with that is the issue of consent. Consent is sacred. We're going to have nothing but equality. And everything, like all creative endeavors, everything is going to be between equals. So at no point, you just have to be, I'm going to wind up explaining this more in a little bit. You have to be really committed to, even though I said be infinitely adjustable, make sure you're on your own track. So don't vote for somebody because they're the closest thing. You know, I wanted to back this candidate, but I backed this one because I didn't think that mine could win, or whatever. If it's not, don't settle. Claim your authenticity. And I guess that's the point. There is a purity of intent, and we need to stop tolerating inequality, certain things that really insult our soul, but you're going to get 80% of what you wanted, but 20% of it is crap. That's how the inequalities started, when we kind of got into bed with people that were like, I don't really mean, that's a phrase my father used to say, go to bed with someone, but he didn't actually mean sex. But nonetheless, if it's if it's a creative endeavor, a consensus, make sure you're in agreement with it, because there was an imbalance that took place regarding consent, where whoever had the upper hand, we kind of learned to tolerate getting our fingers bent back, like, okay, I'll yield, because that's the larger power. That ends. We're not doing that anymore. So my job is to hold a space where the underdog has an equal voice. So don't settle if the candidate isn't totally in alignment with you. It has less to do with the system per se, because it's not like we're not going to be voting or using a voting system. It's just that it has to be one where there is actual democracy, as opposed to politics and selling and whoever has the upper hand and whoever is sneaking around and manipulating things so that they can get their way. You know, manipulations that are very Machiavellian and happen behind closed doors. No, it ends. So this, there's a lot of emphasis that's going to come out of me. Oh my gosh. I got messages all last night and all this morning. They're gearing. Two things are happening. So many things are happening. Far more than two. But I don't even know where to help with this. Help organize this material. Okay, there's something going on behind the scenes that is, there are several, I'm about to lose the, damn it. Hang on. Okay, wait. Something about 2020 vision, and I was just about to say that. My glasses are coming loose, and this is lopsided, and it's about to collide. Wait, okay, it's loose on the left. It's loose on the feminine side, and something's about to collapse. So there's something about 2020 vision, 2020 in the election too. I might have to go get a tool to fix this so I can keep this on my head. Because look how loose it is. It's really, really loose. This is really wobbly. It's lopsided. And I might add, this is the only pair of glasses I've got left, because my two other pairs broke too. They're only for reading, but trying to think. Oh, I may wind up going to get the fan too, because the energy's already running and all of a sudden I'm very hot. You know what? Hang on. I'm just paying attention to that, because messages came in for me today where there's something that's about to happen. I've been anticipating it. We touched on it. And Carmen's on the move. Look. Just as I said that, Carmen is on the move. Okay, I'm paying attention to data. At the end of the last live stream, if you didn't catch it, I'm going to have to go get a fan. Let me, hang on. I'm going to finish this thing, and then I'm going to go get the fan. 1 second. At the end of the last live stream, I was talking about something that happened yesterday when I was looking in the mirror, and I was talking about some bit of cement. Oh, yeah. So I know this is a little rambling. Bear with me for a second. So don't endorse anything with your own energetic signature until it is purified. When it's purified, it needs to be a hard no until it's purified. Once it's purified, it's all in. So remember when I said there was going to be a hard turnaround? We're going to have to go all in as soon as the crap is cleared out. That's one thing, like they told me that I can't land right now. I'm actually being held back and prevented from going. Two things are happening. There is, hi Andy Sway, there is a lot of dark interference right now that is preventing, and this is preventing something, holding something back. Simultaneously, that thing is being protected. So how do I want to say this? I have to be careful. Remember yesterday when I was talking about The, hang on, crap, where'd I put it? Was talking about, maybe this is it. Non-negotiable equality. I'm going to get back. I was talking about the sculpture, the spirit that was in the cement. Remember, I was saying that just yesterday. Damn. And there was a spirit in there, and I said it was held and extremely dear and was being protected by something that was like cement. And I had asked why it wasn't stone, because I would expect that a spirit would be housed in stone. And what they said to me was, it's being held in cement because it has to be kept secret, and it's being contained by something because if it was stone, the stone has consciousness, and it would know. The stone would know. There's a barrier around something specific, and now I know what it is. Now I know what it is. And why is there this little fly? Okay, Nat Oversoul. I'm doing a live stream and I don't want this gnat around me right now, so you need to send it elsewhere, and if it comes in my space, I'm going to clap it. There. Now, all of a sudden, why is... Because what I said, it's important. The reason I'm looking up this particular... I'm looking for the notes, and why is it not here? Hang on. It's important. Why is it not right here? This is the page. Wait, come on, it has to be here. 1 second. Then I'm going to get back to it. We're going to get in a roll, and then I'm going to keep talking. But there's this. I don't understand why I can't find that exact thing. Because I wrote it down and now I can't find it. I had said, the quote was, I'll go back and look for it. The quote was, I have to go pick up my daughter. And the information was it was a word, it was wept, and it was W, it was a W word. The word I kept getting was wept and held. And then I said, it's something transparent, and it is transparent. Transparent. So one of the things and I got an affirmative after that. I can't understand why I don't find this piece of paper with everything written on it. It has vanished, and now that's freaking me out because everything means something. I just caught the gnat. Okay. No? Okay, I guess I'm just going to press on to that. It's okay. I do need to, I'm just going to say whatever I remember about it. I'm fascinated that it's gone. It's not in here, and this is the pad I was using. Why? That's going to puzzle me, but when I find out the answer, I will tell you. Carolyn Ells, yeah, that's it. That's the one I had. Is it in here? Okay. I had said transparent. So the parental figure, there has been a parental figure in the higher realm, and there's been a parental figure in the lower realm. And we're getting ready to have a switch. There's something, no. There are dark forces. There's about to be an explosion. I don't want you guys to worry about it. I don't want you to worry about it at all. Nonetheless, we're okay. I guess I have to say this first. I had said that I thought that message was about, it was for someone specific. It's on my wall. If you didn't see it, it's on my wall. That's an important thing. There's something hidden in there's a spirit that's in a vessel that seems like cement. The issue of cement has to do with the fact that it's artificial. It's being held by something artificial that's serving two purposes. One is negative and one is positive, because all these forces are the same. But they're saying the timing here is extremely vital. So wait for it is the direction I got. If you know, if this is meant for you, you'll know. You'll know. The message for you is your message has been received. So right now I'm just being the messenger, but I know what's going on. And it's so fascinating to me that the piece of paper I wrote down my notes on this is gone. And hang on. The rest of you, please bear with me. You're welcome to listen. And there's a transmission that goes along with this. So I'm not wasting your time right now. If you're clueless, you're like, what the hell is she talking about? The message that's coming in is wait for it, you'll know. The other message is your message has been received. So both sides have received the message. There were two sides that were trying to get messages, and the messages, the information was being interfered with substantially, with harm done. There was harm done because the where are these bugs coming from? That's interesting. That's never happened on another live stream. There were messages that were trying to get to one another, and there was interference. There was a lot of dark interference. Some of that was intentional because we couldn't have these things meet prematurely, because there were arrangements that had to be made, because when they meet, there's going to be a kind of explosion that's going to feel like a huge relief to some people and devastating to others. Yeah. The message that's coming in that I'm to deliver about this situation is that your message was received. Both sides are in accord, even though they haven't spoken directly. The message has been received. The next message to both parties is as urgent and behind schedule as it is. Don't push it prematurely just because you're behind schedule. There was a time when we need to delay certain things because the algebra must be correct. When I say algebra, there's a balance of the network, and there are so many particulates that need to come in on like fibers and strands, and all of the pieces have to be in place, and it's quite a complicated system. So the window for action is coming back around. So yes, you can feel that anticipation. There's you're getting a lot of help. You're gonna know. There's gonna be a point where you're gonna know and it's going to be time. And that's the it's like there are going to be two, I don't know how to say this. It's like there are two explosions that are the same explosion. It's happening in two places at once because these things are entangled. And what we're trying to do, and now I'm speaking to the general people, what needs to happen, because one side moves faster than the other, but they're entangled and we're trying to sync them up is the point. So and both sides are getting messages for the other side. So on one side, it's saying, on one side is getting the message, hurry, 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 but this side's already moving fast enough. So the tendency is going to be for the one side to be premature, and we can't have that. We're trying to balance these things, and it's not that easy. So the other side is getting the message that you need to speed up. So the one side has to slow down and the other side has to speed up. The side that, oh gosh, okay, now I'm being told to just wait. The message is it's been received. Hang on. Stand by for updates. More on this later. That's what they said. Okay, that's what they said last night in my live stream at the end when I talked about the spirit in the sculpture. It's not a sculpture? I don't think I used the word sculpture, but something like that. There's something that is being safely kept where it can't be found by it's being contained and held very, very safely until the time is exactly right. Because there's a certain stage of development, and the instant it's correct, then it's going to be time, and then they're going to explode together. That's basically what happens. And there's a I had used the words transparent. And then I said, I have to go get my daughter. There's a parental figure that's changing realms in order to go assist the child. The child's, okay, I'm going to leave it there. Anyway, the other part is, sorry, hang on. Wait, this is weird. Okay. There's a lot of updates, and it's going to change everything. It's going to change everything. They're preparing me. They're preparing me for a much, larger role. The other thing that's going to happen, the other thing that's going to happen with that, I think I can say this out loud, is that, it has to do with can I say this out loud? Because there's a reason right now my information has been getting out, but I'm like, right now, I don't even have 1,000 followers. Or it's just my audience is not that big. And it's limited to certain strata of people. When the energy is correct, and the reason that so the interesting thing to me yesterday was that the thing that this is being held in is cement instead of stone. And the reason for that is because the stone would know, and it talks to all the other stones of the earth. And right now, so here's the thing, right now like you see me, I'm talking in a body, but I'm not in my body. I'm using this vessel, but I'm way above. I'm only like tethered. Very small portion of me is here. That is for a reason. So what they wanted to say about the stone, that this other spirit is very silently being kept in, quietly and held, and there's a secret about it. And for some reason I was supposed to say, yeah, there's a secret about this. Very few people know about it. Those that do know about it don't take it seriously enough, or they know better than to keep, whatever. They're not going to speak about it. For some reason, me saying it on a live stream isn't really considered enough of a threat. And you also have to do that. There is this rule that you have to tell them what's going to happen. So I'm telling you what's going to happen. There's going to be a double explosion and a meeting. There's going to be a collision of two systems. The reason the stone can't know is because, or the reason it's kept in cement is because the stone can't know. Because stone talks to all of nature communicates. So if if it was held in cement, there's an artificial quality to the cement that prevents the immediate recognition. Because if it was held by something like a Shiva lingam, or held by something that was like shungite or natural stone, or something that has more of a consciousness, it's like the earth base would immediately know about it, and it would get prematurely excited because there's a recognition. Yes, that's what I wanted to say. There's a very excited, like they're very, very excited for this energy to come back. It's like the anticipated liberation, but they need. So I'm telling you, like, because my population is small enough, and plus we're not, it's okay for me to talk to the people that I've got listening to this. Our entry into, I want to say our entry into the atmosphere, but we're going to come down really, really hard. And it has to shake the earth with a kind of a shock, a particular kind of a shock, such that the repressive forces crack and yield. I had talked about the breaking of the asphalt. When the higher force descends, there's going to be a shock. It's going to liberate certain things that haven't been liberated for a long time. And they want it. They don't want to stagger it. The plan is to not stagger this thing. They want it to be as colossal as possible toward a purpose, not just for, stage presence or something. It has nothing to do with that, like make an entry. That's not it. It's strategic. And my audience, I've been wondering about that. It's so funny. I had been wondering why. I mean, I don't particularly care. I don't try to get followers at all. But I had actually wondered why on my Facebook page it's like under 1,000, and I had just kind of wondered why, because it seems to me that given my energy it would be magnified a lot more. But they say I know why. There's a geometry to the way it's supposed to go, and my energy can't fully be here right now. It's kind of like I can be tethered by a string, but I can't fully pull it in because I'm not supposed to, because there's a patterning, there's a template that is designed to land and be picked up very quickly, and it is the template of equality. So what that's going to do, it's going to there's going to be a very sharp correction. To almost everything. So they've been talking to me about that. If you're interested, I said this yesterday, but I just today, I wonder why it was a day late. That's weird too. I think there's certain things that are working their way backwards. I've been watching certain things that I know where they need to be, and I've been watching certain things backwards, and I won't really get into it now, but like certain things are like one letter off, and I pay really close attention to the alphabet because I'm always dealing with sound and vibrations and paying attention to the vibrations of sequences of letters, and sometimes certain things sound similar, or you can spell it a different way, but it's not the vibrational, the vibration is wrong. So I've been paying attention to the certain tweaks where things just need to be more in tune, and it's not. And things that are almost correct, but it's like watching a clock and it's like at 11:10 or something. And it's like, when is it going to get 11:11? It's like, it's so close. Come on, what, it's not quite right. And then I'm just wondering, like, where I'm watching there's a pattern of the places where that's happening. Like almost, but not quite, almost, but not quite. And I'm just waiting for like the last little, anyway, that's where we are in the process. We're waiting for a gigantic colossal force, but things have to be totally in alignment. And here's the thing about our brethren. We're trying to make it so if you're somebody who's getting really impatient, like I do, but I on some level I really understand, and I'm the one who's like keeping it held up in certain ways because as above so below. In the third dimension, God wants all inclusiveness and nothing left behind. Let not one thing be unloved, uncounted, all inclusive. And the third dimensional version of that is greed. I will have this and this and this and this and this and this and this, and I'm not going to let a single penny get away from me because I want all of it. There's a stinginess there. That's the way it expresses itself in the third dimension. So we're trying to balance this thing. There's if beings choose to have a separate experience, you have to let them go. You can't enforce. You can't pull them in as much as you want to. You have to let them go and explore that part of the terrain. Explore separation, and that's part of freedom too. You have to let them have it. But but my tendency is to gather all, and so we're just waiting for everyone who wants to be included but can't get out. There are just little tweaks that we're just trying to make sure everyone has a gateway that everyone can get through, and all the connections, because there's going to be a way that it lifts up. So we don't want anyone to get left behind. And they won't be. So even though we know that it's coming and it's behind schedule, just wait for it a little bit longer, because we're working night and day to just make sure that no one is left trapped when they want to get out. Okay, that said, I'm going to, and on that, for some reason, this really wanted to be, this is Fulgurite. This is a piece of Fulgurite. That's for equality. This is a small piece of Fulgurite, really small. For some reason, I was just about to sit down, and this really, it almost leapt up here, and it's a small little piece. And for those of you who don't know what Fulgurite is, it's where lightning strikes sand. And one thing that happened, it has all of this lightning energy. And when lightning strikes sand, the sand being silica, it melts into glass. And you get this piece of basically petrified lightning. But the beautiful part of it, that I think is great, is that it's hollow. I don't know if you can see that. It's totally hollow, like you could use it for a straw. Can you see that? Get my head out of there. I don't know if you can. It's hard to line that up. There we go. Anyway, the neat thing about this, one thing you use it for, it is a prayer amplifier because it's hollow. So the reason it's hollow is because the lightning is so hot that when it strikes the sand, where it's coolest around the edge is where the glass melts, but the inside is so hot that it vaporizes the sand. So it's hollow, and only the exterior of the lightning bolt melts the sand. There are some pieces of fulgurite which are not hollow, but this one's hollow. So if you can get, and I think to the best of my understanding, most fulgurite is hollow. At any rate, if you can get a piece of hollow fulgurite, one fantastic thing you can use it for, make sure your intention is real clear and real pure. Real pure. You can establish an intention. So this is really useful for heightened manifest. So when I just blew it up to the sky a second ago, I blew it up for equality because I just love that shit. And I mean it real hard. So you get something in your mind and you really feel into it. And this can amplify your prayers dramatically. You know how you use a candle because the flame is so extremely hot, and that intensity, if you can put a strong intention into a candle, you light the candle and then it kind of carries that it's an energy intensifier is what a candle is. And so fulgurite, you can use that. Whoop, did you just come off? No. You can use it that way too. And what you do is blow it up to the sky. You don't have to blow it up to the sky because your intention can go out. You can focus it, but it's a kind of like a director. And you use your own breath, and you build up a charge, and then you send it through the fulgurite, and it carries the blast of that kind of explosive intention toward your manifestation. So use it with care. Don't be sloppy. Don't say, I'm, whatever. Don't be sloppy. Make sure your intentions are pure and high. Don't get stupid with it and say, I want myself an expensive pair of sneakers or whatever, Don't be shabby with it. Treat this as a sacred instrument. But then if you have that, if you're really willing to honor this for the sacred tool that it is, it will work for you. And if you take shabby energy to the process of utilizing this as a conscious ally, if you bring a shadow energy or a shabby energy to your interaction with this as a being, then that's what you're going to get back. So be careful and mind your vibrational hygiene and treat this with respect. I love it. I'm going to leave this right here. And then if we pray together on this live stream, maybe I'll utilize this. Drop me a line if you're interested in purchasing crystals. There has been some interest since my live stream yesterday, and I was thinking about it anyway, charging crystals on the live stream, or I don't know. I haven't really figured out since I have no interest really in commerce, but I do really have I do have an interest in getting the right crystals to the right people for the purposes of sacred work. So I was toying with the idea possibly working with my friend Sherry to be a hub for crystals getting to the right people. So if that's something that would interest you, drop me a private message. A couple of people already did after the last stream. Okay, so on to the tops of the conversation. Oh, okay. 11 Gateway. I'm going to start here. 11 Gateway. We're going to be going up through this 11 Gateway or coming down through it, because those of us who are coming down are going through the same 11 Gateway, and those of us who are coming up are going through the same 11 Gateway. We're going to meet, and there's going to be non-negotiable equality. So we have to talk about this because it's going to be a group endeavor, and there's going to be a very heightened, scrupulous adherence to changing standards. Things that were considered common, that you could get away with in the past, that many people just became comfortable tolerating, are going to change drastically. It's not, oh gosh. I'm just going to touch on the topics. So right now we're in a period of time where certain adjustments are being made that are very impermanent, and I may say things during this live stream that I don't immediately do for and I'm thinking of one in particular because I was just starting to talk about factory farming. But honestly, right before this live stream, this very one, the challenge that I've been having is coming, they're trying to get my frequency down to meet a particular level that I'm very naturally averse to. I know that it needs to be picked up, but in order to pick it up, I have to get the portion of my being over there to pick it up. So one of the ways my guides had told me to do this was to go eat factory farmed chicken. So right now, like, I feel a little sick to my stomach, and also I'm disgusted because I don't do that. I don't like it. And I know it doesn't meet my standard, and I just told everybody to, like, hold your standard. And then I just went, like, against my own self, except my guidance had told me to do that it's toward a purpose in the very, very short term. So follow your own guidance. I'm just going to talk about, there is going to be a point where the entire thing is lifted up and it goes ka-junk, and then we can't go back down. We're not going to be going back down to the level it was. In order to get that to happen, I'm doing particular things that it's kind of, it is my preference not to. I'm willing to do it in the very short term. Anyway, I want to talk about the 11 Gateway. And also I will say that before I ate the piece of chicken, I rang the bell. I thanked the chicken for its service. I was in gratitude toward the chicken, the amount that it had suffered, and I said, thank you for helping me go through the sacred task, and I appreciate the consumption of your body toward this purpose. And it really does make an enormous difference if you do that. So the 11 Gateway, there's going to be non-negotiable equality that's going to hit a lot of people real hard. It's not going to happen with all of those levels. Remember, I was talking about all of these different levels? Everyone's going to be bumped up, And those at the very bottom are going to have to continue to rise, and it's going to hit some levels very hard, and other levels not nearly as hard. Other levels are going to be, you know, in rejoicing mode, because it's going to feel like freedom to them. Thank God we finally got something. Thank God we have our liberation, and we finally are being fed equally, and we finally get our share of riches, etc. And others are going to really experience a, like, holy crap, what the hell was that? I just, there, and so we're going to have to rely on our compassion to help them. I do need to talk about non-negotiable equality, because it's going to and I'm going to be talking about it more later. They've told me to prepare to be on a global stage. There's going to be a sudden landing, and it's going to be handled a certain way, and they won't entirely tell me because they know I don't love it. But I am willing to do it for non-negotiable equality. What that means is that participation in any kind of endeavor where one party is considered not the equal of the other, although there is a hierarchy of spiritual. It's not a value hierarchy at all, but there is a spiritual maturity, and for the lower levels, the spiritually mature are absolutely going to land as the parents and make very harsh corrections and say, clean up your room right now. Clean up your room. Don't kill your brother. That's it. I've had it. The mother lands. Basically, that's what's happening. It's going to be good. If you're listening to this live stream, you're gonna like it. But it's going to. Some of these inequalities are so pervasive that it's going to require a lot of adjustment, and honestly, it's going to require equal adjustment for those of us who come down too. A certain degree of confinement, and we're going to have some magic, but not all of it. So it's going to feel restricted to us. It's going to feel actually there's a liberation on both sides, because, you know, in certain I started to say this yesterday, and I think I forgot, the issues of control in the higher dimensions with a higher vibration and a much broader toroidal field. We have a lot more control over physical matter, but the irony is that we take far, far, far less of it as a general rule. We allow freedom. We have a tremendous amount of freedom, but we have a lot more control. And the reason we have it is because it's earned stature, and we've learned how to wield it properly. We don't abuse our power. If we did, we would fall, and we'd be fallen angels or otherwise confined. The thing about the third dimension is that, or I should say the third, so sometimes when I talk about the third dimension, it's form, but it's also the bastardized systems and the political structures, the institutionalized corruption. There is still going to be form. There's still going to be matter. It's just going to be a much lighter version of it. We're moving to fourth density. In the third dimension, they try to take control. They try to control much, 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 much more of it. But the irony is that they have less because they're down there, and it's reduced to all their real creative power. It's reduced to basically limited to the degree that they can simply respond to what's already made. So there's a flip there. But as a consequence, they try to control everything. They just want to know things. They try to control everything. And it's because they don't actually control anything. Not really. Regarding the issue of corruption and inequality and factory farming, and equality. If you can be bought, you can be sold. The issues of karma and karmic justice. So often we think of karma as punishment, and it's not actually a punishment, but it is a measurement, and whatever you put out is going to come back to you. So if the idea that animals are beneath us and are lesser beings, that's no longer going to be tolerated at all. You still have free choice, but there are many, many other beings in the universe that view human beings as lesser species. And if you can be bought, you can be sold. If you're the loop of the third dimension is that, well, all things really, is that whatever you put out is going to come back to you. The idiocy of the density of the third dimension is that you have this experience of separation, so that you never actually make the connection that one thing is linked to the other, and you like, or how are these things connected? It's not connected. I can do whatever the heck I want, because you're on the timeline, and your karma doesn't, because everything moves so slow, your karma doesn't come around to you for a really long time. And because so often we've been conditioned out of believing in reincarnation, we don't even link our, half of us forget our childhoods, and we don't remember that we had previous lifetimes, so we never actually see the connection. If you're in three and asleep, you don't make the connection between you and another person, that person's your mirror, or you did something then that is now looping back because you don't see it. So you think that things are isolated, and it's okay to keep another being in a pen and kill it when you want it. Factory farming, and our willingness to tolerate it. And in fact, we're when we consume something, having just done it, I realized they're trying to get my vibration ready, a portion of it, to drop down to a certain level so that we can do some liberation, but I'm having a hard time getting it down into that area. Because there's about to be liberation too. A realization that whatever you do to that equal being too, without its consent, it's non-consensual. And whatever you're doing to someone else, you're endorsing it with your personal energetic signature. All of the information all of the energy that comes through you has your personal energetic signature. So this is why I'm saying there's no external force that's going to look at you and judge you and say, you are bad, you have karma, you get back and do that. No, the reason you should, it's really a matter of learning how to control yourself, cleaning up your own act, holding yourself accountable, and creating yourself, transmuting yourself into the being of your choosing. So when you really figure out the way things work, that your first creation of your entire world begins with you, if you really want to go ahead and eat meat, you can do that. And then you're endorsing it with basically your own energetic signature that says, keeping another being in a pen and holding them and torturing them, and so that they're food for somebody else who doesn't love them, that's okay with me. I put my energetic signature right there. Place is going to go vegan real fast. It's not going to happen overnight. Overall, there is a generosity of the planet. And I will also tell you this, not all meat eating is bad. Torture isn't okay. But it's amazing to me. actually, it's not amazing. I shouldn't even say it's amazing. I understand it. When souls sign up to go and be a part of a prey species, they understand for real. There's a consciousness there that says, I'm a part of the circle of life, and at some point something's going to eat me, and I'm going to allow my physical body to be eaten by something else that needs the food. When I'm done with it, you can have it. Animals in general, particularly prey species, like there are certain prey species of animals, and they enter into that agreement and like, yeah, I'll be one of those, no problem. And I understand that completely, because apart from the fact that I have a job right now, I would very happily give my body over to something else to have. If you've got business and you need protein or whatever, go ahead and take it. I'll vacate. There is a permission asking that's really the thing that needs to be reestablished. Very often, prey species are happy to. They're very mild and matter of fact about death. Like, a lot of them will fall down. Have you ever seen this happen? I've seen it happen lots of times. If something's about to is caught, they don't always struggle. Sometimes they just go limp and they leave. I've seen that happen a lot. Sometimes you'll have an individual that will really fight for its survival. If something is fighting for its survival and it wants to live, don't take it. Give it its free choice. But it is funny that there are, believe it or not, there are some animals who don't mind dying. And a lot of the prey species come in like that, but you still have to ask them. That's the thing. You don't get to decide who's who. Or, you don't mind dying, I'm going to take you. You don't get to do that. So that's going to be, there's going to be a non-negotiable equality where the consciousness of all beings is going to be recognized, where we're going to, where's my Fulgurite that I just had? There it is. We're suddenly going to recognize that the earth speaks. Stones speak, and there's a consciousness to many, many things. Various levels of consciousness, but there's a functioning and there's a harmony that's vast and entitled to respect. And everything functions together. So a lot of things are going to change real fast. Because we are a factory farm. I mean, that's the thing. If you don't already know that, we are one. We're a fear farm. There are beings in the universe that feed on fear. And we have ourselves on this planet, we've been a factory farm. They try to keep us at a low level of anxiety. They do. I'm not really going to go into it terribly, but they tipped the axis of the earth and they directed it so they can harvest it. They get a constant supply of fear and negative energy because that's what they use. So you can't. We can't annihilate. We're not going to annihilate them. They are allowed to exist as well. What we're here to really do is bring everything back into a balance, a way out of duality, back into a balance. So on the subject, so there are a number of things that are going to come into sharp. Everyone's going to have to make an adjustment, put it that way. The ascension of the planet is going to be, nobody is going to have to bear the brunt of all of it, or make, everyone is expected to make an adjustment. I'll put it that way. Yeah. So certain areas, particularly the issue, I shouldn't say particularly because it's a lot of areas, the issue of masculine-feminine balance. I should say it this way. That's going to be one of the first main issues that everyone's going to feel that pretty sharply on both ends. The whole issue of, and it can't be, we can't lay the blame solely on the feet of the masculine either. It's like the Me Too movement was so pervasive, but what we have to do is address it from an energetic perspective and look at the energetic platform that allowed for it and really take ourselves in hand and say, what was our portion of it and what needs to be adjusted so that we stop laying down for some of the crap. There are certain levels that absolutely need to get up and fight and refuse certain things and not go along with certain things. Like, if you're having sex with a partner who does not treat you as an equal, you're taking sacred creative energy, and with that particular sacred sexual energy particularly is your own brand of your own endorsement. It's got your energetic signature on it, and every time you have sex with someone who is not treating you as an equal, you are saying that that's okay. I endorse this. My name's on it. I'm signing this contract. Okay. Every single time you do it, you're saying inequality is okay with me. So don't be surprised if you're a woman and you're not getting paid as much as a man. You didn't demand it and you had sex with him. You said, okay, I'm going to continue this arrangement. I'm going to continue this arrangement because what can I do? It's the system. It's bigger than me. Bullshit. It was never bigger than you. I don't mean like every individual. You've got to summon every last resource of yourself as an individual and say, under no circumstances am I going to tolerate this or this or this. And you really have to be scrupulous and kind of an immaculate hard ass about it. I'm not going to go along with that advertisement. I will not go along with this. Every single time you pass an injustice, fix it. I'm yelling because I'm really emphatic about this point, but there are certain things that we have gotten to we've gotten so used to things just being this way, and after all, I have to survive, so I'm going to go along with the agenda that I wish I could change it, but I just can't. I just don't, Take every single opportunity to make it right. The degree to which you allow it to pass, that you're sending mixed messages, that like part of me says it's okay, I'm going to let this pass, I'm going to endorse it with my own energy that says, what can I do to change the system? It's just this way. I'm going to allow it. Every single time you allow it, that percentage of you endorsed it, said it was okay. So granted, a lot of these problems have gotten so out of balance that it becomes incredibly difficult. I'm not saying we can, we haven't up until now. We haven't been able to fix it all at once. That is about to change very, very sharply. We've had to adjust it by increments. And that I know I'm going to be talking about this again, because right as soon, okay, wait a minute. I'm going to leave that for another live stream, actually. Be very careful where you apply your sexual hygiene. Your sacred, where you apply your mental focus. This is an area where it can get particularly sloppy. And you need to know that even if you don't have a sexual partner, If you're somebody who's using pornography and you're masturbating and having an orgasm when you're looking at something like bondage, you just endorsed that real hard. No pun intended. You just said, this is okay with me. This is okay with me. Well, guess what? Anything, we're not, inequality doesn't fly anymore. If you're doing that, you're gonna go down in dimension and vibration real fast, because that will no longer be tolerated. The allowing it, talking, I know the conversation. There's an argument. There are people who say, oh, it's just your imagination. Bullshit. Imagination is generative. It creates form. So in the third dimension, where things were very polarized, that darkness, it was allowed to be there for the time being because we were trying to clean it up. There was a certain process we kind of had to allow it in a certain strata for a duration of time. But this is how you wind up building up to a degree where you've got this degree of pedophilia in the church. There is an inequality that was allowed to build to the point where it created that. And things like MK Ultra and things where you have these weird organizations where it's one side is very light and childlike and very innocent, and the other side is extremely dark. Disney among them. John of God is another one. You've got this iconic figure who does all of this phenomenal healing work with this team of entities. And on the other side, I don't really want to talk. I want to talk about him in a different live stream because you'd be very surprised at what I'm going to say about that. There are energetic forces at play, and no matter what he did, no matter what the occurrence was that happened, I think I'm going to end up doing why is my voice all of a sudden? Okay, let me get back to that in a second. Because I have to, yes. Because I have to talk about that too. Absolutely. Yes. That was one of the things they wanted me to say first, and I didn't say it until now. Hang on. There are two channels that have to be opened up simultaneously. I'm going to wind up getting back to John of God. Certain energies can't do anything but come down into form in a certain way. The darkness has to go somewhere in order for the light to even be and exist. So I'm going to wind up, I'm not defending it, but I am going to explain what happens behind the scenes that creates a dual circumstance like a John of God incident. Please cut the actual man some slack. He agreed to come down and do a particular job. He is a servant of God, despite the fact that he's playing a very dualistic role. Please cut that actual soul some slack. I can't talk about it now because I got to talk about this other thing. But that's one of the things I want to talk about, because there's a mechanism by which these hyper polarized things come down, and I don't like the conversation that is being had about it, that creates more war, where you're calling the other side your adversary. He started out really light, and we thought he was light, but he's really dark. Don't do that. It's not sophisticated. There's a level of discourse that needs to be had about it, and there are energetic ingredients which have to go somewhere. They're going to exist regardless. I want to do actually probably a whole live stream where I really talk about John of God. I personally, he saved my life, that entire network. My energy joined his network, because anytime there is an interaction, My energy went into his network and he saved my life. And I personally went through his protocol 6 times. I was dying of kidney failure. I'm going to do tell you all that entire story. There's something that happened. He's got enough. I can really tell you, having been Joan of Arc, what kind of, it's a kind of service when you come down to deal with polarized forces of such extreme light coupled with such extreme dark in the same vessel. If you've been following that story, notice the similarities. Look for the commonality. Look for the commonality between his story and the Joan of Arc story, where you have this enormous ascent and a sudden collapse into extreme darkness, and a reputation that did that too. There's going to be something, there's going to be a resolution there. I would ask you, that situation doesn't need any more accusation. What's happening is in accordance with a divine plan. Please be understanding. If you don't know what's going on, go take a look. I'm sure you'll find it in a lot of places. But it's not like he was all light and was suddenly all dark. All of those forces have been existing all along. So I'm going to tell you that entire thing a different time. Right now, what we need is less polarization and more understanding of the opposite force as being also in service. He's got enough on his plate. Sorry. Be really careful where you point your intention. The next thing, okay, this is the top of the list on both these pages. Okay, I guess I'll just talk about this. Isn't really what okay, I'll do this now. All right. Christ Consciousness Collective. Union Center. We need to talk about the idea of collective Christ consciousness coming in, and we need to reconceptualize the cross. Yeah, they're saying right now. We need to talk about this right now. The interesting thing that just showed up on, okay, wait a minute. Because now I suddenly see why? I'm suddenly seeing a commonality. They brought this to my attention yesterday in another form. I looked at the Cross of Lorraine. Are you familiar with the Cross of Lorraine? It's a double cross. It's where there's you've got a single axis, and then you've got a cross at the top and a cross at the bottom. So it looks like, well, basically, if that's the axis, you've got a cross. I can't. Okay, it goes like that, and then there's another cross down here. And for some reason, they really brought that into my mind. It showed up a couple of times yesterday. And then just on this live stream, I had no intention I was even going to talk about this. It has something to do with a double explosion that's about to, something's happening in 2 places at once. I'm going to do some research about the Cross of Lorraine and get back to it, but because I'm doing this live stream and I've got 3 pads of paper and I didn't orchestrate any of this, but I flipped the pages open, and simultaneously it was on both of these things that I flipped up to at the top of the page. So I'm going to talk about this now, even though it wasn't what I was going to talk about. I mean, it was, but I was going to put it someplace else. There's a sweet spot in the center. And what we have to do is really find We have to reconceptualize the cross from, because we're not going to tear down absolutely all of these churches. We're going to reclaim them for light, but we really have to do a number on the way we're thinking about every last little thing in the church that was charged with a certain kind of belief, where every single time we saw that, we thought the cross, oh, the crucifixion, my God, he died for our sins. And every time you look at this, you feel this, you know, the martyr and his, that's a disgusting thing to do with your sacred energy. When you're in a house of God, do not focus on torture. Duh. Don't do that. Don't focus on anguish. Especially don't pour all of your emotion into anguish and torture and martyrdom. Don't do that. Okay, we're going to flip that around completely. You can focus on the resurrection. The idea of, but so what are you going to do with all of these churches? We don't want to, I'm a huge fan of artwork and architecture, especially fine architecture. And I'm not a big fan of having antiquities destroyed just because something needs an update. So what we're going to do is completely redo it without the destruction. Yeah, we're going to clean it the hell out though. Completely. You can do this with a vibration, and we absolutely need to change the belief system so that every time we look at, you know, so I had already talked about confession, where there's a way to look at everything. And there is a quote that was attributed to me when I was Joan of Arc, that wars are won or lost in the mind. That's absolutely true. It's always true. So what we need to do is take all of these things, and it's not a matter of reframing it to rebrand it to sell something that's still a piece of crap. That's not it. We're not going to do that. There's a way to reframe the same situation so that, you know how like as above, so below? There's a diamond where you decide. The power is actually yours to, for you to look at this thing and see, how am I going to perceive it? Am I going to perceive it as a piece of crap? So that actually goes back to John of God. Am I going to perceive this thing as a piece of crap, or as a servant who did, a servant of God who did a tremendously difficult job, both sides of it? The same is true of Disney. The same is true of the church as an organization. There's a way to clean it up without annihilation. So, and I'm one of them. There is a part of me that's like, that's it, just destroy the fucker. I hate this so much that I just want to, there's a part of me that like, I blew myself up the first time. They're like, you should remember that. I cherished the way I had my planet. I made it. I cherished it. It was so immaculately balanced, and I loved it so much. And what I did at the time, when we were invaded by the masculine and they destroyed everything, they didn't know how it worked. There was absolutely no respect at all. And my children were being killed and raped and imprisoned, and they fucked everything up to such a degree that because there was a loop and I felt every last twitch of a whisker, every blade of grass they cut, whatever, I couldn't. And so did all of the other beings that weren't even acknowledged as being sentient. And the accusation, it was just a constant loop of sensitivity. And there was an accusation that came back like, how could you let this happen? But I didn't even know it could happen. And there was anger that came back. Anger, if it's not balanced and filtered, it builds up into into heat. That's how you get inflammation. Anytime a portion of your body is inflamed, it's an anger issue. And what happened on my planet was that there was a circuit, because I had never put any individuation into any of my beings or allowed them to make an individual choice, and everything they needed was immediately, there was this magic where anything they wanted was immediately, they just had it. And it was like the mother figure. You just give it to them, and anything you need, you just have it. And so they had never experienced anything negative at all. They had never experienced anything bad. They never, we prized ourselves in the Queen Temple. We just had layer after layer after layer after layer, all of these translucent, just an enormous harmonic. And it was teal, and it was sparkly. It was all multicolored, and moving a lot like fiber optics. But everything was so carefully managed that even when birds flew through the rain, they didn't get wet. We took such care to make sure that nothing ever experienced anything that was less than the best we could possibly make it. And when we were invaded, they found an in by flattering. They flattered someone. They found their way in through flattery. And this is one of the reasons that in the correction, we're saying don't pay attention to don't give your validation to an external source. You need to know that you're valued. Find your value from within. Don't seek validation from any external source, because that's what brought down the planet to begin with. An external source that, and misguided compassion too. We had, the children had no discernment. They had no ability to discern that they'd never met anything that wasn't friendly. So they didn't have that at all. The vibration was so high that we didn't even know they could touch us, but they found a way in. They got permission, is what they got, by saying, please help me. Please help me, I can't get my thing to go. Why not? And somebody who was basically a kind of a lower level queen who knew the way things worked, but was susceptible to flattery. Said, I'll help you. I'll go ahead and give you this information that I'm not really supposed to share, but we felt that I didn't, but someone felt bad for the lower, and didn't keep a secret. It was immaculately maintained. At any rate, there was a lot of kind of sharp looking at the queens in the temple. Like, how could you let this happen? There was sudden anger and accusation from the entire planet that came back to us in such a, like, I've experienced that. That's the reason I'm saying we have to get the stability and a stopping measure, so that each person, if they're not able to maintain a transmutation, a stable field, they're going to drop out real fast. And we have to have the ability of individuation so that it will prevent a continuous loop that just escalates and builds before we can stop it. We couldn't bring it back into balance fast enough. And so it built up into this rage and despair and anguish, the anguish, and the anguish, the fear, the terror, and it went, and it just exploded. And there was an interdimensional explosion of an entire planet. And that's what we've been trying to recover from. So we're back here at this juncture, and we need to approach it with care. So going back to the God and self ratio, the cross, the sweet spot is in the center. You've got what we're trying to do is bring back into balance the masculine and the feminine. So it's like the giving and the receiving. So each person, each being, and all the different levels are going to be respected this time. But there's not going to be any more, the subjugation, but there's also going to be a level of respect and expectation that you're going to clean up your own mess. So you're a level of self-responsibility, and that's what a lot of people in the third dimension are not they're not entirely prepared for, because they've been, let me get back to the cross and I'll go back to that. If you think about, well, basically this is the new conceptualization of the cross, where you've got, God is going to do half, or like that which is above you, I'll put it that way, there are still things that you give to God. That's like the uncertainty, like I can't control this, therefore I'm giving it to God. But everything that is within your control, you're responsible for that. And then, so that's the center of the axis, the vertical axis. And then the center of the horizontal axis is your own balance of giving and receiving. You're responsible for maintaining that in yourself. So service is the giving, the masculine. The expressive aspect, you're responsible for that. Everything that goes out through you, from you. And you're also responsible for your own resting or receiving. You're responsible for that too. So on one level, no one's going to be able to say, I expect you to work more than you can work for less than, because that's a way to get depleted real fast. In the new model, you are actually responsible. It's a weird thing because everyone's responsible for certain things about themselves, but you're also responsible for the wise stewardship of the levels beneath you. So wherever someone requires assistance or requests assistance, every place you can offer, it is your responsibility to serve. So whatever you have, the thing about the 11 gateway and the level above it is that put the mountain in the valley is the rule. So whatever you have more of than you need, you're allowed to have everything you need, absolutely everything you need, you get. That's why it is so incredibly abundant. There's quite a bit of stability, and you don't have to have any fear at all, because someone is going to, if you genuinely don't have anything and you can't get it, you generally are lacking something, all you have to do is leave an opening and it's going to flow in. It's automatic. It's like water. It's self-leveling. But what that means is that for the level above you is responsible for caring for you. But what that means is that you're above a level too. And so everything they need, it's your responsibility to help them to self-level. So whatever it is that you have, it's your job to be offering it. There is no more withholding for the sake or until someone can give you back something. No, that's not the way it works. If you have in the higher dimension, if you have something that someone needs, give it away. Give it to them. There's still going to be money and transaction, but the whole idea is if you have a lot of information, somebody might not have money, but they need your information. Give them the information. Don't make someone pay for healing. If they need healing, heal them. Just wherever if they have money, then a monetary exchange is appropriate from that person. You can still maintain a transactional as long as it's even energy exchange. If you need money, you can get money on a equal exchange basis. But pay attention Because if somebody doesn't, basically remember your own, it is up to you to kind of take the justice system into your own hands. So if you see a homeless person and you know how to, if you're a contractor, if you're a builder, take matters into your own hands. If you know that justice isn't being served in a certain circumstance, you know that somebody needs something, that person is absolutely recognized as you. So it makes absolutely no sense to have one of your legs be really tall and the other leg be really short. And the tall leg that has this skill already doesn't say to the lower leg, I want something from you so that I can get even taller. Don't do that. Just like you wouldn't feed just one side of your mouth. You know, you get the principle. You also can't pass off every task as being something that someone else does. There's going to be a self-correction there too. There's going to be a lot more personal initiative taken to simply fix a problem. Here's the way it works. If something comes into your field, if something meets you, it's there for you to fix. Put it that way. If there's an imbalance and you know somebody, you don't have to worry about fixing a problem that's way far away. If it's something that you genuinely can't get to, that's basically there is a level that can reach that. And so we're going to be at like, unless you really, really feel called, like you feel like it's your mission, you definitely have to do that. Follow your own guidance. But the main thing is, if something meets you, I say this all the time, you're either a match to it or you're a match for it. It came to you for a reason. So if you pass a homeless person and you have, you know, a vacant home, or if you have a guest bedroom or whatever you have, fix it. If you don't, or if you're somebody who really has a hard time in really applying that principle, you're going to drop down real quick out of the fourth dimension, out of fourth density. There's I was going to talk about. So basically, to recap before I change subjects, everything that you feel in your heart, the center is your heart. Everything you feel in your heart, everything is going to be heart-centered. That's the heart center. Everything you can control, you're going to take initiative to fix it. Everything you can't control, you're going to release, and that's God's. And you can, you know, maintain your own alignment. And then masculine and feminine, that's your balance. So I was going to talk about mass walk-ins. There's going to be I started to touch on it last night. I touched on it a little bit, but I did get a couple of messages, and there seems to be a little bit of alarm about that. One of the messages I got was, the children are coming, the children are coming. They're very excited. A lot of people, when the collision comes, or when the, you know, like the dual explosion, when that happens, it's going to shake a lot of people who aren't ready, who didn't drop density, whose hearts aren't really prepared. Let me rephrase that, because that could be misinterpreted. A lot of people who really, like they go into shock and they're like, oh crap, I'm out, no way. The path of least resistance for them is to just let go. And it's also going to basically force a letting go of a lot of the graspers. They've had enough time to let go. There's been a lot of the people who are inflexible, emphasis on inflexible, to the point where they will not flex. They won't be flexible. They're not going to adjust. No. If they hold on to that degree, when the blast comes in, that's the shock that we're talking about. That's the reason that the spirit couldn't be held was held in cement instead of stone. Because when it has to land with such an arrival that it shocks the establishment and the places which are so inflexible. There's going to be a cracking, and in the cracking of the asphalt, as I've said, I've used that analogy before, in the cracking of the asphalt, there's going to be a great release, but the impact has to be hard. So a lot of people who have been doing this, who are inflexible or fearful or something to the point where they just can't, they can't get out. The light coming in is going to be bright enough that the darkest of the dark in equal measure, it fries. It fries. It's like tissue paper. It's just, it can't maintain that level. So if you can't transmute, you're going to let go and you're going to release. So the issue of mass walk-ins is one where we don't want, because it's going to happen. Oh, charming. Speak of the devil, right? That was fireworks in the sky. It just went off. I don't know if you heard it. 3 of them. The issue of mass walk-ins. So what would happen, because it's going to happen globally, what would happen if we didn't have the walk-ins? You're just going to have like mass casualties. You don't want to have a bunch of people depart their bodies and just have dead bodies everywhere. There's a flood, really a flood of very eager souls who want to come in and take those vessels. They're going to be real keen on it. Just get out of the way and let me take your spot. That's going to happen. So the resurrection, there's going to be a mass walk-in when the darkness vacates, and these contracts have already been made, most of them. I would be very surprised if there are a lot of them who are made, despite the fact that we're waiting for like last minute adjustments. Mostly these contracts, everybody's made their choice. And so now we're just waiting for it. We're just waiting for it. So what's going to happen is that very, very high vibrational beings with a lot of the new technology, with a lot of the ET species who have just been like hovering on ships, and they're all waiting to come in. Like as soon as the impact comes, they're going to as soon as it's the arrival. And so in order to ease the adjustment, make it an easier adjustment for those who are gonna otherwise would have a hard time with the adjustment. And they don't, like there are certain people who are eager for the world to be a better place, but they've been indoctrinated to such a degree that it's a hard thing. They don't know what to expect. There's a tendency, there's a tendency to kind of long for the way things were, or you don't know how to operate any other way. There are some people who have been taught their entire life. They haven't been really schooled in being inventive or adaptable. They've always been schooled. Their hearts may yearn for something that's better, but they have only ever been trained to do things a particular way. So they may not have the skills, or they don't have the skills in place just yet. So in order to alleviate some of their discomfort, there's a staggered approach to retraining. So what it is going to be, instead of like all of the ETs coming in and you have like mantis beings landing, on the White House lawn, which would scare the crap out of a whole bunch of people, or Arcturians landing, and all of a sudden you see a blue being, and no, that's not what we're having. We're having the people mostly look the same, humanoid or humans or humanoid types. The souls are, a lot of them, not in all cases, like a lot of people are who have done this work and are like, we're going to keep our vessels mostly. And a lot of people are lending theirs and they're leaving to other, either souls who have been here for a long time, but they're coming in with technologies that are just, we've been waiting for the opportunity where these technologies can come. So we finally have free energy, and we finally have, and it's celebrated. A lot of things like that. There's a tremendous amount of labor that needs to get done, but it's going to be fun, and there's a rejoicing too. There's a rejuvenation and an excitement and a heightened energy, and it's so much love. You know how easy it is to work endlessly when you're in love with something? You're just, you know, you want to work for 20 hours on something without stopping because it's so exciting, and somebody has to remind you that you haven't peed. And somebody has to remind you, you know, you haven't eaten for like 3 days because you've been working on this invention, or just stop, would you stop practicing? They used to have to drag, when I was John Stanley, they used to have to drag me away, really drag me away to come eat, because I would practice like 21 hours straight. I just loved it so much. And the girl my sister-in-law we lived with at that time, I was Charles John Stanley. He was an English prodigy. I had to, in order to balance the Joan lifetime, I had to come down as a prodigy for England, and be celebrated for, in order to rebalance. It's been a really long process of rebalancing from that lifetime, because the English had persecuted me so much for my clairaudience and my voices and my sensitivity of hearing. In order to balance that, I had to come down as it was John Stanley. You can look him up. He was a composer, and I look the same too. But he was blind. In that lifetime, I went blind when I was 2. And, but I became a prodigy on the organ and also the violin, but I was also a composer, and I composed all sorts of things, and I conducted large courses, particularly of Handel's Messiah. And I was a professional when, I beat out like 40 adult applicants. I was like master of the King's music when I was like 11 or something like that. And I was really famous for my improvisations. At any rate, I was saying this for a reason. What was the reason? Oh, because in that lifetime, I actually remember this. My sister-in-law that I lived with was, since I was blind, I couldn't read music. So she would play every time there was a new piece of music, she would play it all the way through, and I would memorize it after hearing it once. And then I could play it better than she did. But that's not the point, the ranking. The point is the reason, because one thing that would happen is she always wanted to impress me or get my approval. It was something I didn't know that. But she really wanted to impress me and get my approval. But the interesting thing is that she would practice something for about 2 hours or something, about 2 hours a day she would play, and wanted me to like congratulate her for playing or say good job or something, which I never realized. I regret it now that I didn't know she had that perception, because to me, playing for I would play for 18 hours. And the reason I had like this endless compulsive, it's an energy stream I'm really, really familiar with, like this compulsive thing that couldn't stop it. But it was also because of the love. I loved it so much that I didn't want to stop. I wanted to do it until it was. I wanted just to keep going. And it never even crossed my mind to tell somebody that they did a good job for doing something for 2 hours. Because I thought it never crossed my mind that she didn't love it. Never crossed my mind. And I remember when I was a child in that lifetime, they would have to pull me away and say, you haven't eaten. You have to come sit down at the table. And when I was at the table, I would be eating. I was like 6 or 8 or something. I would be eating, but I would be moving my fingers and hearing it. It just never stopped. That's the kind of energy that's coming into the planet. it's very, very easy to get reinvigorated and keep going and invent things. And when you really, really love something and you're doing it from your heart, and it's coiling off in all directions. It's just so multi-veiled, and it's like it's just an explosion of joy, and it's so eager, and everyone talks to everyone else, and everyone's telepathic, and it's just this incredible network of love and all creation. It's going everywhere. So that's coming in. And it's going to be very busy, but it's going to be a very busy, exciting time to be alive and to be working, to be learning new things, and there's going to be all kinds of stuff that needs to be built and written and taught and sung, and the number of souls, human and ET, who are coming in for this dramatic reset, it's just enormous. They're all waiting. So it's not like the ships are gonna land and out is gonna come. You know, President Trump is gonna shake hands with a Pleiadian and announce. Although there could be something like that, because as soon as the fear is gone, we could have, you know, any number of miraculous occurrences. We were like, oh, that's never gonna happen because XYZ. Bullshit. Wipe that idea off there's nothing that cannot happen. There is a level of disbelief, and you cross that. And here's the thing. Once you've seen, if you've seen one actual, I shouldn't say it like that. I was going to say call it an actual miracle, but I shouldn't say it like that, because really the only thing that determines a miracle is the level of your disbelief. So the only thing we have on the planet is a lot of people who have never thought that it's like, you're going to be here if your heart always really wanted that. And then but you know, you didn't know how that could happen, or you were discouraged or whatever. Once you see one or two things happen that, like, you know how, yeah, okay, it's like this. It's going to be the reverse of like the Trump administration. How, you know, like certain things started happening in the country, and people were like, what? How is that possible? How is that possible? How could this possible? How could this happen? How is this possible? What the hell's going on? That was the precursor. So above that, you have this other level where we're basically going to be having the same reaction, but it's a different strata. We're like, you know, we're the people who had no idea that this could happen are gonna see their first miracle, and they're gonna be like, what? How did that happen? Where did the tumor go? How is this possible? There's just going to be a different level, and so you're really going to want to work on being in the higher strata. Honest, you're going to want to be there, because miracles happen all the time. I've experienced lots of them. I flew up at some point. I really did, for real. I kid you not. I actually flew up a hill in France once in this lifetime. On my bicycle, I was stuck in clay, and I actually flew up a hill. I was, all of a sudden, I was just at the top of the hill. And my bicycle was laden down with clay that I was carrying for somebody else that I didn't even like. I couldn't stand her, but she had wanted this clay so badly, and we bicycled 3 hours to get there. And we went down into the clay pit. I'll tell that entire story, but that was one of the, it wasn't the first miracle I've ever seen, but it was one of the more notable things that happened to me when I was about 23, when I was backpacking in France. And everything, and I was alone, I was traveling alone. And everything that happened to me, I knew nothing about Joan of Arc or the Joan of Arc lifetime. My guides kept me in protective isolation. But when I went to France by myself, I had so many occurrences there that at the time, they stunned me, changed everything for me, and I could never forget it. Like it was one of those things, like you experience it and it shook me. There were lots of things during my time traveling alone in France, in the Loire Valley too, where Joan of Arc spent all of that time, that shook me so deeply. And I was not, I was being prepared when I was 23 for this time now, only I had no idea. I had no idea, like spontaneous, I would erupt in spontaneous crying of such incredible anguish because I saw a caterpillar. And then I was like, afterward, I was like, what the fuck just happened to me? I went to the Troglodyte Caves as a tourist one time, and I saw, like, they shook it. I was so deeply moved by the Troglodyte Caves, where these families had carved out homes and holes in the wall for their chickens, and they were trying to protect their families and their livestock from invading armies, and the steps that they took to avoid discovery. There was a bush that it's I don't know why this is coming up now. Wow, I didn't think I was going to talk about this at all, but I'll just finish this since I'm already on this topic conversation. One of the things that they did that moved me to crying so hard that I couldn't even, a friend of mine that I met there had to guide me on the bus back because I couldn't find the bus. I was crying so hard. This thing shook me so much. I was so upset. The families living in caves, trying to survive, had carved out of rock, because it was like one of the only things that the English couldn't burn, because they would just hunt down families and burn it, take away everything they had and burn everything they owned, kill all the livestock, rape the women, and just leave. And in order to avoid that and simply survive, these families had found that beautiful yellow rock, and they dug out by hand these homes in the earth. And there were a couple that you could tour. You could take tours, and you could see like the scrapings, and this is all hand work. The places where they had niches in the wall to sleep and holes where the hens were kept. And one of the things they had were places where the cooking was done and where the fires were. And what they had, this ingenious way of evading capture, where they would look for or dig a small hole for a chimney all the way up. They would look for a crack. It would go all the way up to the very top. Like, some of these things were deep, man. They would look for cliffs or someplace where it couldn't be spotted from the English, or something that they couldn't burn. And what they did is they would make a fire, and there would be a hole, like for a chimney. And then this is the thing that like set me off sobbing out of the blue. And I had no idea what my past lives were or anything. This is one thing, like when I found out about the Joan of Arc lifetime, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. It made like every single thing in my entire life suddenly makes so much sense. All of these things, like, I really am bizarre. I have no idea what the hell just happened to me there. What the hell I saw a bush, and I fell down on the ground and sobbed for 20 minutes to the point where I couldn't catch my breath because I saw a bush with a little sign next to it. what they would do was plant a bush or a couple of bushes above the chimney, so that when the smoke came up, it would diffuse the smoke, and then it couldn't be spotted by the English. It would, it would just diffuse it, so it would widen it. You wouldn't be able to, be an English invading force and see where the smoke was coming from. And all of these things these steps that they took to avoid invasion. And all they're trying to do is, live. Just broke my heart. At any rate, I've got a lot of these stories, and the whole thing about flying up the hill from the clay pit, I'm going to wind up telling that story too. I've got a whole bunch of these stories that it's actually, it really did make everything make so much sense. But when I found out about the identity, didn't come even remotely as a relief. It came like my blood just ran cold. Because I remembered it so hard. It was so real. I remembered it so hard. And I just didn't want it to be true. I didn't want it to be true. I thought, because I remembered the job, like, you're here to do this second half. You've got to bring this to a resolution. You're here to finish your job. You weren't here to just liberate France. It started with France. But this time we're here to finish the whole planet. We're here to liberate the planet. So this is going to be the second half of the job. And I don't know why. I mean, I'm crying now because I'm still doing a little bit of purging, but it's actually going to be a time of tremendous rejoicing. So I'm going to talk a lot about miracles, the way miracles work, because it's really a tremendous time, and it is a privilege to be here. It's a privilege to do this job. And I did actually have a choice this time. I opted in because I didn't want to leave it. I didn't want to leave it undone. So this is an interesting strata we're in. What time is it? 8:09. I really wish I knew if I had to go pick up my daughter right now or not. I think I don't. I can't tell. I think I don't because it's raining. Okay, that makes sense. So what else? Oh, this is what I would suggest. This is just a random thing. Oh, Calico with all. Okay, how much you want to bet I'm late? Whoops. Just a second. I might have to end live video. Hang on a second. Hello? Hi, where are you? Oh, am I supposed to pick you up right now? Okay, I'll be right there. I'm on a live stream right now, and so are you. Okay. I'll end the live stream, and I'll be right there. Okay, bye, honey. All right. I guess I have to go pick her up. All right. I know where she is. I'll go get her. So if I don't get back to it, yeah, if I don't get back to this tonight, I'll pick it up tomorrow. And it's so funny because last night at the very end of the live stream, I said, I have to go pick up my daughter. And then this is the end of the live stream tonight too, except I thought she had a ride. Okay. I love you. I will talk to you tomorrow or possibly tonight. We'll see what happens. Okay. I love you. Bye.